We are officially halfway through the day here, 3 hours into it. It's Dolson and Mifflin on the second and final set of this week here in the SPL. Miff, give me some initial reactions here after that big game. 60 minutes to end it out.
Oh, you want reactions to that last game? Do I either gas up Radiance or do I poop on Renegades? Poor Kano Dose. Aurora has a really good showing despite his slash line. Cyclone Spin absolutely pops off, and Renegades were the bid bad for not winning at the 20-minute mark.
Fair enough. We've got one more, though, and that's Obey and Ghost Gaming. Not a first versus worst, but a second versus worst, I suppose. Ghost Gaming, a team 8-4 here, so certainly hasn't been without its struggles, but the overall trend of theirs has been upward. Looking actually to keep pace with Space Station Gaming for second. If Ghost win this, we've got 3 teams tied for first at 9-4. Of course, there's some head-to-head plus-minus tie-breaking that comes into account there. But I think you have to look at kind of the ebb and flow of these two teams, up and down from Ghost, but maybe up more recently here from Obey.
I mean, Obey's been trending up since they've got the new jungler, the new star jungler, and that's what this set's about. It's the 2 jungle stars. One, the shining star in the darkness, that's Sino, and then one, the literal just best jungler in the league, that's Sam for Soccer. It should be an exciting set. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people might expect.
And you know, maybe it's a non-question, but I think a lot of that has to hinge on Sino here. I mean, the first time these two teams played, it wasn't particularly close, and Ghost just kind of ran away with it in 2-0 fashion here. Now, looking outside of Sino, and specifically this guy on your screen here, I think the carries, mid and AD for Obey, have also stepped up here in recent weeks for the Obey squad.
Wolfie for sure has been impressing me every single step of the way, and Wowie might be the only role player-esque ADC in the league. He's very consistent, but he's not been the star of this roster. He's not the reason that Obey wins, but he's never a single time been the reason that Obey loses either. He's very consistent, and I think having that consistency is a fantastic tool, but if Wowie ever does decide to just straight up pop off, this Obey roster might just be closer to middle of the pack instead of bottom.
Well, flipping the script over to this Ghost team, their last 6 games now have all gone all 3. Their last 6 sets have all gone all 3 games. They've kind of checkerboarded wins in there, a couple wins, a few losses, so not necessarily consistent, but the one thing that has been consistent is long sets, and now that's something that Obey has been doing here recently as well, with some changes, maybe some new momentum. They've started to take these sets a little bit longer. Do you think, though, looking specifically at Ghost, this is a roster that might be able to break that trend and find a 2-0 here today over Obey?
Yeah, so historically, Ghost games usually do end around that 30-minute mark, whether losing or winning. They're very decisive, and I think that against Obey, a team that usually runs it down with Warriors in the jungle, this game could very easily be won out in the first 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how well each team does in the beginning, because Ghost is one of the best early game teams, and Obey has some of the most early game drafts. This could be a pretty quick set.
And actually, kind of a fun fact here in this one, as I said, last 6 sets win all 3 games. The last set of Ghosts that didn't go all 3 was against Obey, and it was a 2-0 win for Ghost that time around. I wonder, though, Mifflin, how much, and maybe we look at picks and bans specifically here as well, of these matchups and how close this one is, hovers around that jungle. Obviously, Sino, what's needed to be said about him in this matchup, I think, has been said. But Sam for Soccer, people can make an argument for him for best in the league. Sino's going to have his handful in the jungle matchup here in this one.
He will, and this is when Sino really needs to step up for his boys. If Sam for Soccer picks an assassin and dominates the early game, regardless of whatever Sino picks, if Amana wins early, Nike wins early, doesn't matter. He's going to get outscaled if Sam brings the same performance that he always does. It might be my inherent implicit jungle bias that makes me say this, but I really do think that this set is going to be won and lost in the jungle.
Now, actually, that's an interesting conversation piece, I think, and even specifically for picks and bans here in just a little bit. Sam traditionally, of course, has played those assassins, as you bring up. Sino has kind of forged this warrior jungle meta into some success. A lot of the other guys around the SPL have started to pick up on that meta here as well. Sam for Soccer, absolutely in that conversation. In the last 6 or 7 games, he's played Vamana a couple times, thrown some Erlong Shen in there. So I think there could be a battle, not only in the game, but for getting some of these high-priority warriors in the jungle, interestingly enough.
I don't think that Obey's really going to have to fight over the Vamana jungle. Nike jungle, that might be contested,
Maybe.
but otherwise, Sam is very much comfortable playing things like Thanatos, things like Pele,
Right.
Hunbots. He plays these gods that scale incredibly well into the late game, or he plays a more facilitator and still somehow bops in the game. I think that there's not too much similarity between the play style of both of these guys, outside of the fact that they really can put some of these games on their backs.
Right, it's more if Sam wants to play one of those warrior jungles, maybe there's some back and forth and picks and bans, but otherwise, one of the most versatile junglers here in this league. You've already been 3 hours into this day. Let's start to kick things off here for Ghost versus Obey. We've put a lot of emphasis already in this jungle role. I want to look at Wolfie as well for Obey, this mid laner. He has been so comfortable on Raijin, and I wonder if that's something Ghost have to look at, either pick away, ban away, or maybe they have something prepared against it.
I think it would be privy of them to at least address it somehow, but Wolfie's had a fantastic fallback pick into the Merlin. He's playing the top of the meta as far as mid goes. I don't know if Ghost is really going to be willing to ban out both of those picks, especially considering Ducky's been having a standout year. Inbound has a very narrow god pool that could be abused in the early. There are ways that Ghost can try and attack what Obey normally does and try and slow them down. I'm not sure that banning out specifically the mid laner is the only way in.
Oh, it is going to be the Nike in the jungle taken away by Ghost, and hey, there's a Raijin for the mid lane taken away by Ghost immediately after, hitting Obey in this draft where it hurts. A couple picks that have really shown some resurgence here for Obey in the last half of the phase. Terra as well, taken off the board, so that's going to be something to limit inbound over in that support role. Now you look at what Obey have taken off the table. Get the Yemoja away from PBM, one of the guys in this league that can absolutely lock down games. The aggression moving in towards purple buff, something PBM can do on that Yemoja, obviously. King Arthur, take it away from Fano in that solo lane. And then an Ullr to round out the bans here for Obey.
I like everything we're seeing so far, and I like what Ghost is doing here. They take out the Heimdall. Normally, any other team, you'd almost immediately assume that it's going to be first pick Merlin. He's one of the last few incredibly meta mages left on the table, but Twig doesn't really play that god too often. Instead, they take away something that maybe Wowie will want. Get him off something that could be a little bit less safe than the Heimdall is. And Heimdall's going to fit just about any draft regardless. He's got his own CC. He's got his own peel. He's got mobility on his own. It's a completely safe first pick, and this leaves Obey with every single mage to choose from. So Ghost should relatively get whatever they want for free because Obey doesn't really have any pressure to take their mage right now.
Right, and I think that's important to look at. With so much variety in that role, it's not going to force Obey into showing their hand there early. Now, a fun kind of back and forth to watch was Ghost versus Radiant in the pick ban phase, because this Hercules was literally taken off the table every single time. Neither team wanting the enemy support, and I guess sometimes solo laner, to be playing that Hercules. But Ghost is going to get it snuck through here this time with Kokulin locked in. It's going to be PBM on the Herc.
PBM on the Herc, Obey, what are you doing, guys? That's the checklist. I sent it out. Everyone's seen it. You can't let PBM run away with one of his signature picks. Yeah, they missed the memo or they straight up ignored it, and I have to assume that it's willful ignorance at this point allowing PBM to get this Hercules. He's been so absolutely dominant on it every single game that he's allowed to have it, and that's really the argument. Is he allowed to have it? More often than not, no, but Ghosts somehow sneak away with it. And they get a fantastic fight lane in this Kokulin as well. One of the few guys that can trade very well into Osiris. He can be left alone on that island and have so much more space for this Hercules to just run around mid, run around duo, do whatever he needs to do.
Think back to just a few moments ago, he had a nice 60-minute long game where even despite Benji being sat on for the first 15 minutes of the game, turned it around, had a fantastic late game on the Kokulin. Granted, there's some external forces at work there, but it is showing that kind of despite a rough start, Kokulin can still absolutely have an impact on these games. And Osiris, so that'll be a different look at that matchup. Do you like what Obey have here for their solo lane?
I'm not even sure that it's going to be Osiris solo. We're talking about Obey, Dave.
That's true.
Cynosure
Reddit,
over there. He could absolutely take it in the jungle. He's done it so many times. If it goes into the jungle, he usually goes the attack speed build. I'm thinking Stone Cutting Sword, Executioner, something along those lines. Fafnir is going to be able to boost that up, regardless of the role, but it'd only create further strength to leverage that power, get more attack speed, more damage from those autos, kind of turn him into a pseudo chainsaw come late game. With Hera getting picked up, I know you're excited.
How are you going to bait me in like that? My goodness, Mifflin, I'm moving over to the Hebo. I won't even designate that with a response here in Picks and Bans. No, I am excited about the Hera. The damage potential certainly there for her, and depending on how those polymorphs are hitting, can really lock down some members of Ghost here. Hebo to answer back, though, and that's likely going to be in the mid lane here. You got some aggression over there if you're Ghost, and Obey are going to have to identify that. Wukong, I'm not sure if that's the answer, Miff.
Wukong is not my favorite pickup ever, and that's still another flex pick. That could be Wukong jungle, it could be Wukong solo, it could be Osiris solo, it could be Osiris jungle. You're not going to be able to pay me to guess here. Ghost comp, though, looking at it, they're lacking a little bit on the engage. Hercules has decent engage, as does Hunbots, but only having those two available to be the frontline presence to start up these fights, it's going to be very execution focused. More often than not, Hunbots ult is likely going to get beadsed, and then it's going to be all on PBM to find some sort of pluck.
There were some moments where Benju was able to find some big knockups in the previous set as well. Ghost versus Obey. Game 1, we'll kick it off with Finch.
Thanks, Dulcet. Great job containing yourself with that Hera pick coming in, man. Appreciate the professionalism. As it's Finch and Gormizer on the call. We are into Ghost up against Obey, our final set of the week, and I expect this to be a big one, especially with Sino showing us why his warrior jungles are so feared. He'll be piloting the Sun Wukong here, Gormizer. Are you all in? Are you sold on this pick?
You know, I'm not against it. I don't know if I'm fully sold on it. Of course, his performance maybe being able to do that here, but in theory, I think Wukong has a lot of what you want. It's maybe not going to be the 100-0 kill potential that you maybe would see out of an assassin, but he's got a stun for setup. Worst case scenario, he's got a knock-up for either engage or disengage. Pretty solid damage on his spin that, well, honestly, given the right circumstance, specifically against a Hebo, it's a lot of control that could lock down Ghost.
Wowie in some trouble. There's the slow coming through for Sam. A shell narrowly saving the life of Wowie there. Good work by Inbound to drop the already upgraded shell to keep him alive, but they lose their beads as well as Ghost continues their pressure trying to strip away the purple buff. And while I may have led with Sino getting Sun Wukong, that might have been the wrong warrior player matchup. Hercules on Polar Bear Mike is always bad news for the opposition.
Yeah, here's some numbers for you when it comes down to it. PBM, coming into this week, was tied with 2 other players for the most first bloods, and that's at 6. That's a third of what Ghost have gotten in this phase, right? And it's almost always because he plays this aggressive style. He's good with this Hercules, right? One of those players he's competing against in those numbers, though, is actually Sino on the other side. Since he joined, he has essentially half of what Obey have been able to pick up in terms of first bloods. And so this is a really big factor to look at. Both of these players kind of being the openers for their team, but with how aggressive Mike has been, even as he's getting right now, is maybe a showcase of why that number is so large for them.
And you can see the beneficiary of it is Panda Cat. He was able to hit level 3, and Inbound only just now making it over to level 2. So Ghost doing a great job here, Gore, of getting their long lane player ahead. We already saw Cyclone Spin playing the Heimdall to really great effect. These pilots in the SPL are clearly very comfortable, even with some of these gods that they haven't gotten to play at the SPL level a lot. And now that he's got off to such a tremendous lead, this could be scary for Obey right out of the gate. Panda Cat will certainly show us everything there is to see from this Heimdall pick, I think. If there's some high end that's yet to be mined out, he'll certainly prove it here.
I think I'm pretty scared of Heimdall in general, let alone when he starts to get ahead. I mean, he's going to be hitting a little bit harder every single one of these trades. Like, Wowie, it's getting to the point where he can only think about the wave. He can't think, man, maybe I can jump in on him this time around. 2 levels right now, plus the vision, plus potentially a gank from PBM. It's just going to be so hard on a Hu Yi to get out of this lane successful until maybe level 12 plus.
He's going to have to be on the back foot for a little while here, especially with those beads on cooldown for another 25 seconds. So that's why Mike and Panda Cat are so far pushed up, making use of that pressure they've established here on the left-hand side, Gore. Captain Twig also, though, is worth talking about his god pick. He's playing the Hopwa in the middle lane, and we see Hebo jungle. We see him in the mid lane sometimes, but always you want to see him in the hands of someone aggressive. A Paul comes to mind. I think Captain Twig fits that build just as nicely.
I mean, the guy who we've memed for dashing in on Raijin enough, I think can fit that aggressive play style, right, that you need out of a Hebo. And it's very similar to what we've seen out of him. If you're in the jungle, depending on how they line up or where they are, your crushing wave, it might displace you, but you're going to deal so much damage in the process that sometimes risking it to go into the other team is going to be worthwhile. When you talk about Glass Cannon, he's probably one of the perfect examples. You can two-shot him with the right build, but he'll two-shot you right back, so you have to be very careful as to when you aggress into him, especially for someone like Wowie, or even Wolfie with a polymorph with some CC, could maybe keep him controlled, but if Captain Twig's able to unleash the beast, it's bad news bears.
And if these Hobwa players are able to start the fights on their terms, then very often they'll move out of position with their base kit, and then they'll use the ultimate to go through you back to safety, right? So they're dealing damage and kind of repositioning. There's a lot of ways I think that the Hebo can kind of use their slow immunity, their knockups, the crushing wave abilities to sort of kind of catch their opponents off guard is fine. Okay, getting aggressive around this Cucullin transformation. Blue buff invades are in the cards for him as he makes his way over, and it looks like they were successful in stripping that away. They might get more, but Ducky still had enough mana for Lord of the Afterlife. He uses that ultimate to get back to safety, but now it's Mike's turn to get aggressive, and Sino never got to touch the ground. Driving Strike and knocked up plus Crushing Wave equals first blood for Ghost.
So Twig gets that, but I feel like credit should absolutely fall onto PBM for setting that one up so cleanly for Twig to be able to come in. But that's the greatest example, not only of Ghost, but I think of where Twig can fit into this. The aggression playstyle, it just fits them.
Wow, I liked the idea there between Wolfie and Inbound. If Inbound hits that hammer, then Argus lands right onto Twig, but instead it's Mike getting aggressive, and Wolfie no longer has his bodyguard. Captain Twig gets the kill. Fear no evil, not supremely necessary there, but helps to lock down that kill, and now it's a red buff invade. Panda Cat's ultimate forces the beads out from Sino, who's on his merry way, has to use the bird to disengage. You said it to me in between the games that Ghosts like to play quick and aggressive, well, we're seeing that here.
I mean, this just fits everything that we've seen about them, but the Suns are getting dropped over here in duo, and it puts PBM in a point where he has to actually fall back.
Yeah, uses the Driving Strike to get out of the Suns. Panda Cat repositions thanks to the Bifrost, but Sanford Soccer ends up too low. Wowie gets the first kill on the board for Obey in this game, and they finally able to slow down some of this aggression from Ghost around that purple buff.
Finch, I'll be honest, I'm surprised a 3-man knockup from PBM led to then Sam dying, of all people. Like, anybody on Obey in that portion of the fight feels like they are in jeopardy. They end up going down, and I think it's so appropriate that these two teams are kind of clashing in this way. A lot of aggression from Ghost Gaming, but you know, Obey are playing it and pacing it appropriately, I think, to maybe match them. Not so much in terms of farm, but at least in terms of fight. Even having something like Sino forced to go beads because of this Heimdall, he's able to get in there and maybe be a little more aggressive. But this Wukong, I mean, if he starts to fall behind, which already's got a level difference between him and Sam, I don't know if it's going to be able to do anywhere near what you need out of Sino on this team to perform. And Wolfie may be able to kind of do what we've come to expect out of Dardes when they're on Hera. I just don't know if it's enough without a big impact from the jungler.
I do think that last purple buff invade gore was a bit of a stretch from Ghost as well. They definitely had the pressure, but remember, they used all those ultimates in mid like a few seconds before that, so while he has his ultimate available, Sino has his ultimate available for that fight, and Ghost just couldn't match it, right? They didn't have the Fear No Evil, they didn't have the Boulder there to try and help out, so I think they're right to keep pressuring the purple, but that timing probably just ended up favoring Obey a bit.
You know, one of the things they mentioned on the desk was the battle between the junglers, right? And obviously Sino has been an incredibly big change for Obey, being able to pick him up and what he's brought to this team. But Sam, I mean, almost the same way that Renegades can ride or die on Lasber's performance, I feel like Ghost can ride or die based on Sam's performance. They have a little bit more of a safety net in the event Sam doesn't do well. But, I mean, he's almost up at the top. He's number 2 in terms of kills in the league, and I think we might see why here.
Yep, see how different things looks when the ultimates are there for Ghost. It's the ultimate from Panda Cat right into the Fear No Evil from Sam, and inbound there's really nothing he can do once he's inside that chain to make it out. So it's another purple buff invade for Ghost, and as you said, that jungle impact going to be a big deal here as FineOK uses the ultimate for CC immunity to get away from Argus. Crushing Wave drowns Ducky, but he's still swinging away. It just will not be enough damage. FineOK gets some backup, and Ducky ends up falling, and they're looking for more. Polar Bear Mike nearly able to find the blink pull, but a little bit off the mark.
And this is the only time that I will maybe actively disagree with something Mifflin said, and it's only because of the timing of Ghost specifically. Cucullin, late game, is usually where you expect to see him making these rotations. FineOK, though, doesn't necessarily care about that. He hits level 10, and then everything is on the table for him to be able to get aggressive, and that's what he does here. Whoa. Even Twig getting aggressive. I mean, you wanted to see him be aggressive on Hebo, and he does not disappoint.
Yeah, he's in between the Tier 1, Tier 2 soloing Wolfie, I have to imagine, because everyone else was busy doing something else. Not bad there from Captain Twig to be able to find that one up against Wolfie on the Hero, who's now 0-2-0. And this game's starting to relatively quickly get out of control for Obey. They've looked so much better of late, but when the game gets out of control like this, it kind of doesn't matter who's over there for you in the jungle. You just got to find some way to right the ship.
And this is, I was joking about it during the last game. We hit, 40, 45 minutes, and I was just like, this is sad because depending on how Ghost play today, that could be the length of the set, because this is what they do. They just get so far ahead. They learn to control you. If you can stop them in the first 5 minutes from getting anything done, then you're looking at a 35-plus minute game where maybe Ghost aren't in control. But this first 10 minutes, they've been in the driver's seat. They have been making sure Obey play the game that Ghost wants, not the game Obey wants. Sino, maybe the one who's most notable of all, hasn't been able to showcase anything good about this Wukong pick because he's always reacting to where Sam is. I mean, even right now, he's having to fall back because of PBM.
What? Mike is an absolute madman. Pull into the two-man driving strike. Boulder starts this fight off, so Obey are already on the back foot trying to clear out. Argus has been used from Wolfie, and that does keep some members of Ghost zoned, but the only problem is that Ghosts don't get a kill off it, so they head to the Gold Fury instead to claim their prize, and Obey Alliance cannot hope to fight. This early game has been brought to you almost single-handedly courtesy of Polar Bear Mike.
And it's just what he brings, man. I mean, this support, when you get Mike, one, comfortable, but two, in the right mood, it just changes the pace of the game for Ghost. And yeah, you might lose a Pyromancer in response, but 5-1, you get a Gold Fury, and you force Obey to take the scraps that are left on the map. I think you're taking that as a big win no matter what. And again, you're keeping them shut down in everywhere that matters. There's a 2-level lead in mid, 2-level lead in the solo lane, a 1-level lead down there for your carries. It's a great way to transition into this mid game.
FineOK diving to Tier 2 tower 11.5 minutes into the game, and so far he's been right, but they elect to disengage. Can't quite kill Ducky that easily. Really, if Ghosts are running into any problem right now, Gore, it's that they're running out of stuff to take, right? I mean, like where do they go next? It feels like these guys are dogs chasing cars almost. They should be able to get the Tier 1 tower inbound on his own. Can't do enough to stop this pressure, and Mike looping around is enough to be able to lock him down. Driving strike pulls him in. Underhand tactics for the leap, but inbound has the ultimate, but he knows the second that he lands, they'll be waiting on him. They just have to decide which pull will be used. Sam for Soccer eventually gets the credit as Ghost take control 6-1.
Yeah, I don't know what feels worse, the knock-up from the Hercules or the push from FineOK, because no matter what there, you're not getting away from that. I mean, this is almost pure just W-key aggression from Ghost. They don't know that they have anything else to come through. And a lot of it is just been on the pace of Mike. He's everywhere. I swear every time I look up at the map in the jungle, not only is he on Obey's side, but he's somewhere different. He was just in solo lane. How did he get to the red buff so fast? I don't think I could tell you outside of those Teleria boots. And now he's even blinking in on Wolf.
Well, that engagement didn't quite go the way that he liked. Ate a polymorph the second he blinked in Argus to try and lock him down, but Mike does make it out of there. I know Mike didn't maybe get the setup that he was looking, but clearly there was some fear there from Obey. The Argus being committed from Wolfie just to try and stay alive is still a sign of the pressure that Ghost has at this point. And Obey has done some good things to answer back. You mentioned the Pyromancer earlier. There was a red buff invade from Sino just now to strip it away from Captain Twig. So they're getting small bits. It's just a question of if that's going to be enough to mitigate all the losses they've had.
And you mentioned the Argus. Wolfie, if I'm correct about this. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen him playing Hera in the league. And the one thing Dardes does with Argus that Wolfie so far hasn't been able to do, it's the impact of the drop. It's not necessarily Argus himself afterward, although that does play a pretty big role, having essentially a 6th man in a team fight. But the impact of dropping your ult onto 2-3 people is what makes the difference. And so far, Wolfie's been using it defensively. He hasn't been able to showcase the strength Hera has.
Fear No Evil spreads this fight out. Boulder comes through as well for some additional damage. Good polymorph, but this is a 3v4 so far, and Ghost are on the bad end of it. Ducky gets the kill onto Mike, but with inbound low, it will be support traded for support. Now Sino stuck in between everybody, or at least his decoy is at this point, as they turn around and get the kill onto Ducky. It's a 2-for-1 for Ghost when that fight started off. Kind of in favor of Obey, at least in terms of how many people were there.
Honestly, with the fact that you lose PBM maybe is a black mark just because of the fact that you don't want to lose the guy who's setting up all your kills, but you also only lose your support in that instance, which when you say it that way, awesome. Give me that trade any time of the week. I mean, you've got 4 times as many kills now on Ghost. You're forcing beads out regularly here from Wowie. And I think PandaCat, you had mentioned it earlier, we were watching him in this lane get this lead, but he has been showcasing what this Heimdall can do time and time again. And yeah, he only has 1 assist, but I mean, the amount of relics he's burning, the amount of presence on the map he is forcing Obey to focus on this side, it has just been so huge that I don't know if they know how to deal with it yet.
It's been impressive, man. We've seen the knock-up into the ultimate combination from him relatively quickly, trying to see if he can squeeze an auto in between there as well. PandaCat's really maximized his damage. He's maximized his threat towards Wowie as well, taking that tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, forcing him to use beads basically every time they make eye contact. It's been really tough for Wowie over there on the left-hand side. That whole side of the map has largely just been going over to Ghost with the repeated purple buff invades, occasional red buffs, the Fury control. Obey are struggling right now to find anywhere they can go on the map to find some farm.
Well, now they have to make the ever-important decision, right? And it's not just, oh, where can we gank, who can we look for to try and shut down? Now Fury's respawning in 15 seconds, which means in about 20, that Pyromancer's going to be back up, and they're getting pushed out.
Inbound trying to hold on to that Draconic Corruption, but had to use it at the tail end with Fine OK using that War Cry. It was enough to force him to transform and respond. So now he's displacing Ducky, Lord of the Afterlife. I don't think that's the direction that he wanted. Gets flattened by Captain Twig. Fine OK gets the kill onto inbound as well. Fear No Evil nearly gets the turnaround onto Sino, who at the very least makes sure that Captain Twig dies out of combat long enough to blink. But in the back line, his allies are falling. Sam gets that kill eventually onto Sino. Wolfie's beads. Too late to save his life as Ghost get the 4-for-1 trade.
And now Wowie's left with, again, another tough decision. What do you do here? You can't really stop them from doing anything on Ghost without giving up your life, but you don't necessarily want to back and let them have even more. I mean, pressure onto that tier 2 could mean everything. I like the fact that he calls to sit back, just get some of that farm, but I mean, PBM's still in the area, Finch. It's a dangerous game to play anywhere near the edge of that tower line. Honestly, maybe even in the tower is dangerous. I don't think Mike is going to care too much about diving a tower.
I don't think so either. I mean, you build it as a tough decision, but it might have been an easy one. Maybe just run at this point if you're Wowie, because there's really not much else he can do. Ghost, after that brief pause, will be heading over towards the Pyromancer, grabbing that one. Still, though, the Oni Fury's up on the left-hand side. I mean, inbound's there, but he's alone, at least making sure no one else is on it. But that Fury should have Ghost's name on it, as they should be able to come over and claim.
And it's so bad in this case to have an Oni Fury that could potentially go up against you. Ghost already have such a drastic amount of control everywhere on the map, and now you're saying they're going to have some minions pushing everywhere? I mean, look at left. It's already starting to pressure this tier 2. They don't need the more pressure, especially if you're Obey here. You need to stifle that whenever you can. So inbound, maybe a lot on his plate to try and stop this from happening, but everybody else is zoning over there in the right lane.
Yeah, they're just looking for what farm they can get. Maybe they can push as a way to trade while the Oni Fury goes down in favor of Ghost. They're now trying to see if they can win this 3v2, but Mike and Fine OK are really tanky, and they have plenty of damage too. So Obey with 4 members now fully committing to the tier 2 tower dive, but so far, I don't know that it's working for them. They have locked down Fine OK, but they can't find the last bit of damage, so he's able to survive. Meanwhile, look at left. The push from Ghost got the tier 2 tower there, and they're continuing to push. In fact, Ducky's going to fall, and the counter collapse is on the way from Ghost.
unless they have some miracle way to get back to the base, that Phoenix is looking like it might just disappear over there and left, and it's not going to help the health bars. Captain Twig picks up inbound as they retreat. Depending on how Mike plays this one, he might even be able to find Sino.
And Twig's looping around, blinks forward looking for WoW. He does get hit by the ricochet, so he'll bite off a bit more than he can chew, but it was all in service of opening up the door for that left side Phoenix. Now Sam for Soccer picks up the mantle, drops down the Fear No Evil. Wolfie and Wowie both low, but still, Sam knows he has them completely zoned out at this point.
I mean, Wowie has no mana. All you have to do is burn through Wolfie, and he's going to be able to try, so it's just that awkward moment of Wolfie having just enough mana to try and get the kill back. You can't risk it too much. But guess what they did do, Finch? If the fight maybe doesn't go fully in their favor, Wowie got a tier 2, another tier 2. Oh yeah, by the way, that Phoenix over there in left fell down as well. Obey, I hard committed over there in right, and ended up just getting locked away from being able to back. I just don't know if you want that tier 2 that badly in that circumstance.
I think if they had gotten an even trade for it, you know, where Ghost had just stayed on the left side of the map and Obey were able to kind of sneak away the tier 2, you're feeling good. Even still, they got something in a scenario where most times they get nothing, so I can't knock it entirely for Obey there, Gore, but it's obviously a play of desperation a bit because this game is so far out of reach. 11,000 gold, 19 and a half minutes in, and Ghost continue their clean play right on over to the Fire Giant. They've got that pulled. Inbound is nearby, but they can kill Inbound in an instant if he's not careful. Fire Giant continues to burn. The Frenzy now pops, so Ghost clearly serious about trying to take this objective, but they're not alone here. Sino is lurking over the corner. He blinks in. Ghost secure the objective. Panda Cat gets out using the Bifrost, and now they can take the fight handily on the backside. Inbound is low as Argus comes through, but this is still all looking Ghost.
Oh, that's going to be a good push. Fear No Evil is going to be able to lock down Ducky as well, and they're going to be able to turn this collapse in, but it's a lot of low health bars for Ghost.
Ducky is able to complete the task onto Captain Twig, so they find something. His second death here in a little while is a pretty big deal, but Ghost Gaming answer back with 2 quick kills of their own. Sino and Wolfie both going to have to look at Grayscale for a bit as Panda Cat does some target practice here with Inbound. Mike cuts it short by finding the kill. Wowie will split push over on the left-hand side, but he's got to regroup with the squad sooner rather than later. Sam stops the push while the rest of the boys take the tier 2 and run.
I mean this as a compliment, but Wowie just did his best Netrioid impression, right? So many times we've seen Sanguine maybe lose a fight over there at FG, and Netrioid will just be over there and he'll get a tier 2. Sometimes they'll start putting pressure on the Phoenix. Unfortunately, it's not close enough in terms of the team fight for him to get that far, so now he has to come back and try to defend this Phoenix, but I mean, Panda Cat is hitting like a truck, and I mean an 18-wheeler full force at max speed right now, because with the Rage online, 1 already stacked on that, he has that Wind Demon, like there's so much that is just going to give him power. It's going to start hurting really badly if Obey stand in front of him for too long.
And I don't want to get too ahead of myself with this one. We just saw a great... You can call it a comeback or a collapse, I suppose, with that Renegade set that we just watched a moment ago where Radiance were able to find that comeback victory. But certainly it's possible, right? I mean, we saw Radiance come back from a state just about as bleak as this one, but I don't know. There's something different in the air. Ghosts have been moving so decisively around the map. They know where they want to go next to stretch the lead for its maximum. So until I see something different, I got some faith here in Ghost to be able to clean this one up.
It feels, you know, a lot like you're playing chess if you're Ghost, and you already know what you're going to do 3 turns from now. You're just having to play through all the circumstances to actually get there. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to be able to get this left Phoenix once it respawns. Oh, then we'll be able to come down, grab this Fury. Then we should rotate over for Pyro. Like, they know everywhere they're going to go. It's just a matter of actually walking there in the process. And right now, they're set up outside of this mid, but you've got the Fear No Evil, you've got the knock up here from PBM. Fine OK's level 20, 5-0 and 6. I think he's going to be fine being able to jump in for your team as well.
Looks like a 4-1 split. Sam takes the weakened left side Phoenix and left. It can immediately come rejoin the squad under mid. So it's going to be a full-on 5-man here on the only Phoenix that Obey have left to defend. Final K times the transformation well and pushes in. Boulder Mike pushes Wolfie back towards the rest of the squad, and Captain Twig gets the first kill. Final K is low in the back, but he's regrouped with the squad enough, and he should be safe. That is the final Phoenix claimed by Ghost Gaming, but they want the bigger prize. They want the Titan as they start to surge further forward, and Obey too far behind. They're too weak. They all drown underneath the crushing wave as Final K gets one more kill, and Sino might still be alive, but that just means he's going to have a great view of Ghost Gaming taking game number 1.
I mean, 6-0-9, 8-3-7, no matter where you want to look, the top 3 members there listed for Ghost had a huge impact in that fight. And realistically, if I'm looking at it, they played Ghost Gaming. They got a draft that fits their team, they got a draft that fits their style, they got aggressive early on, and PBM just kept on controlling those early fights to the point where they couldn't escape it. And then, even though he slowly maybe falls off in terms of engagement, it didn't matter. At that point, Twig is soloing people. He's 2-3 levels up on this Hera who can't just quite accomplish anything. They just played their best.
They did. I mean, Aurora might be 1A with Hercules, but Mike is 1B, right? I mean, they're that close in terms of their potential to just run a game on that pick. An excellent performance from Ghost in Game 1, and Obey have a lot of things to figure out in Game 2. I'll get it back to the desk to break it down.
That is a masterclass in setting yourself up and then finishing it in 23 minutes there for Ghost Gaming. Mifflin's is here to maybe answer this big question, and it's is the honeymoon phase over here for Obey? Granted, it's just one game here in this set, or are Ghost just that good?
Maybe it's a little bit of both, right? Ghost, obviously, a really dominant team. They get a draft that fits their style. They play the early game and win it. Of course, that's how Ghost is going to win. Don't give PBM Hercules. I'll send that PSA out every opportunity that I can get. But you might be right. Point out that maybe Sino's impact has been a little bit less in the last couple of weeks, but maybe it's the honeymoon phase, or maybe it's the fact that Obey is really out of contention for playoffs. It seems like this team is lacking the drive that they had when Sino first joined.
That's absolutely fair. I mean, that's something, maybe worth talking about, where at this point you're fighting for just better standings here out of Phase 1, trying some new things, seeing if it works out. Hera, a new thing. Maybe not here in the SPL, but certainly somewhat of a new look here for Obey. But I think more important to focus on what Ghost was able to do right this game, and it was a lot of damage, a lot of initiation from PBM, and then great follow-up from the rest of the team. Captain Twig on this Hebo looked near unstoppable by the end of the game.
Yeah, it was really a 3-pronged attack. Well, let's call it 4 prongs. Final K absolutely does. Let's call it 5 prongs, because everywhere
I was gonna say, who are you leaving
just
out?
straight up won. Panda Cat had a relatively quiet early game, because you're not really going to get many solo kills over in that long lane. Heimdall forced out the beads, constantly got a lead, but for the most part, it was really PBM, Sam, and the mid laner just running it down, winning out every single engagement, and continue to do so everywhere they went. This 3-man stacked squad went everywhere on the map and won everywhere on the map.
That Captain Twig on that Hebo certainly helped steamroll, snowball, whatever you want to look at, out of control here in game number 1. Game number 2, Obey will look to make some marginal improvements that should keep them in the ballpark in the first 20 or so minutes of this game. The easy question for me to ask, and the hard question maybe for you to answer, is this something that can be addressed in picks and bans after game number 1 if you're Obey? Hercules is not an answer you're allowed to say, though.
Oh. Are you sure I'm not allowed to say Hercules? Because I really think that would be a good ban here, Dave.
I'll open it up. Go for it.
All right, so maybe we see a Hercules ban here, remove that one factor that was able to just absolutely exploit the early game for Ghost Gaming. Outside of that, when Ghost is playing as well as they did in that last set, I'm not sure there's much anyone could do to stop them. Everything was working out. The rotations were perfect. The setup was there. The aggression was all there. And a Hebo that is supposed to struggle a little bit in the early game runs off with a 3-level lead 15 minutes into the game. I mean, not much you could do besides ban out all 5 picks that Ghost had last game.
I mean, you can even see there, bans against Ghost, 35% of the time it's Hercules. League-wide bans, 31% of the time it's Hercules. I imagine Aurora and PBM are pulling most of that weight, so that's why maybe we're so surprised here in Game 1 that it didn't get taken away. Exact same bans for Ghost here in Game 2 as they were in Game number 1. comfort for Sino. Comfort for Wolfie taken off the board. Terra absolutely a pick that can find some impact as well. So I like the way Ghost have stuck with what worked. I mean, literally no reason to change if you win a game in 23 minutes. Obey, though, they feel the same way, Mifflin. Heimdall is going to be locked in here first for Ghost. Do you have to pick the Hercules now if you're Obey?
Well, if I were shot calling for this team, the Hercules would already be locked in. You wouldn't have had time to ask me that question. And people forget, Bobby, inbound, he has a Hercules. He was one of those players that was trying to lock it in every single chance that they got. Obey, at the beginning of the season, absorbed some of those Hercules bans himself. But if he's not confident on it, he hasn't played it in 3 or 4 weeks now, maybe he just goes back to the Fafnir or goes somewhere else to try and deal with the aggression. But you can't assume that Ghost isn't just going to take it again.
It's also easy for us to sit and think that, worked in game 1, it's clearly going to work here in game 2. Could change, could, be a different game plan for Ghost going into game 2. But at the moment, the hover is there for Ghost, and the lock-in is there for Ghost. So the exact same start for Ghost here. It seems like you're just rolling the dice if you're Obey. You're doubling down that game 1 was an outlier of a performance going up against this Hercules, and Vehicle Cullen as well. And I'm not sure that's a bet that I'm willing to take.
I'm not willing to take that bet ever. I mean, Hercules isn't just a dice roll. You're not assuming that maybe it was just a fluke. PBM is consistently performing on this god. Pandacat is consistently performing on this Heimdall. The same can be said of Final Case Cullen. These guys are picking these picks as much as they want to, and they're winning out all the time. Obey just showing a little bit of, dare I say, arrogance, not dealing with anything that Ghost has done, and instead allowing them the salty run back. That's kind of insane.
I do like the Achilles, though, if nothing else, to maybe open up the door, just to finish off some of those final few kills. Then on the flip side of that same coin, the Khepri to maybe keep some of their players alive under the eye of the Hercules for PBM. That'll be running it down. Thanatos and Hunbat's taken away, so Sam will have to play something different here in game number 2. But it's a conversation we had when we were talking about Ghost in the pregame segment. It's so hard to ban out this guy. It seems like you're just taking away what you know is going to be way too difficult to deal with, and maybe just edge him towards something that is slightly less scary.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah, I like the bans. Thanatos, because you don't want him dealing with the Scarab's Blessing, and Hunbots, because Ghost's draft right now is lacking a lot in terms of engage. So take out those two factors, you're going to force Sam onto something that might be a little bit outside of his realm of comfort, considering that he still needs engage out of this jungle, or he's just going to go back to one of his comfort picks and likely still be able to run it down. If Ghosts get off to as quick of an early game as they did last match, it won't matter that this team is really lacking in engage. That said, I really like what Obey is doing here. They're getting back to their basics. Merlin getting locked in. Khepri is a first for Bobby, but it's going to be a lot of utility there for his team. If Merlin gets picked out, well, Scarab's Blessing. If Achilles wants to dive deep, Scarab's Blessing. It's going to make it a lot harder for Ghost to run it down early, having to burn through 2 lives instead of 1.
Unfortunately, you only get 1 charge of that Scarab's Blessing per cooldown. All right, we're all locked in here, Mifflin, for Game 2 between Ghost and Obey. I think I know your answer, but whose draft do you like him?
I like Ghost draft, but I think Obey is going to win. I don't think Obey is going to win. Ghost draft is so strong here. They got every single piece, essentially, that they had last game. They even keep the water theming in the mid lane. I mean, it's as close to a run back as you could hope for, and the pieces that they lost out on aren't the ones that were making huge impact in the early game.
It was 23 minutes in Game 1 for Ghost. Can they go back-to-back? Finch and Gore will let us know.
Thank God for Mifflin. My smooth brain almost missed the water synergy there as Mike is in trouble early. Obey Alliance gonna come roaring out of the gates with the first blood, and Mike apparently, even with the water synergy, unable to survive all that.
You know, that's one way to stop PBM from continuing to get first bloods, is to just eliminate him from the game before you even hit 0 on the timer to have it start counting forward. I don't actually know where to go from there. I feel like almost all of the points I had from the draft coming into this fall apart because of PBM, being picked up right there. But he's right back to it, dude. He doesn't even slow down. Look at this. He's right back into it.
Those kind of kills are important. I don't want to take away how important it is to get that first blood bounty, but Mike should still be able to do everything he was going to do otherwise, you know, in this world. So he is going to come up and start trying to pressure them while they're working on their purple buff, leave Panda Cat to just work on that wave by himself and see if he can force out any relics or the like here at the purple. Not going to be able to get to them, though, but still not a bad start here for Mike. Obviously, though, killing him is important there, Gore, but I don't think it's the end of the world for their early aggression.
It really is just going to be now you have this Merlin for Wolfie ahead of that Poseidon, maybe making things a little easier over there, but it's not saving him because clear-wise it should still be Poseidon's game for a little bit, and especially once the Kraken comes online, you've got this huge amount of burst damage that's going to come through, and, you know, maybe not the same way as Hebo brings it, but in a very similar fashion, having that burst is going to help their fight.
Red buff stripped away, but Mike now grabbed by the Abduct. A kill here could certainly spell the end for this Hercules in the early game, but somehow Polar Bear Mike keeps up the tightrope walk, even turns around to come back in as Panda Cat has found a kill. Sanford Soccer now getting aggressive with a blink. Driving strike in for Polar Bear Mike. Do you think he's deterred, Gore? The answer is no. My man is still swinging here in the early.
I want to say untiltable. I feel like a lot of people, especially early on, like you said, that kill, that first blood, doesn't really mean too much in the grand scheme of things. It's a first blood bounty, some experience you're going to have. It's all but disappeared at this point. I mean, PBM doesn't seem to have taken any of it to heart. He was probably laughing right after he died anyway, so being able to not only get back to it, bully Wowie, but even blinking in when he's that low health showcases that he's still got the same mindset as last game, and as we saw, 60% of this team has already proven itself. PBM not being affected means Panda Cat as well as FineOK are probably going to do just fine. It's really Sam and Twig that are the question marks here, and well, they don't seem to be slowing down at all.
They have not. They've continued to play aggressive. Really, they all have. We even saw Twig kind of pressuring Wolfie slightly a little while ago. There is another spawn of this purple buff coming up here in just a moment on the Chaos side as Panda Cat gets pulled back towards Wowie and inbound, but has the Bifrost there, so he's able to make it out safely. But that purple buff spawning without any presence from Ghost on the left side, it looks like they're going to give it up. Instead, they're coming towards right for a blue buff invade. FineOK, Mike all here. Even Sam for Soccer coming to join the show. And I don't think Obey Alliance have enough members here to contest it. The blue buff gets stolen. And with even Captain Twig rotating over, they're going to be able to do more than steal a buff. They'll claim the life of Ducky too.
And honestly, that Whirlpool, maybe you think, oh man, he misses, he didn't get the damage. He cut off the escape route. Ducky had nowhere to go. Now PBM's going to be able to find two to push.
Pushes two in, and Sino suddenly out of position. The Abduct is there from inbound to try and keep them alive, to be that life raft, but Ghost Gaming continue to start surging forward. Another two-man push from Mike. It's actually disgusting at this point. Sam for Soccer gets the kill into inbound as well, and at this point, I just cannot imagine a world where it makes sense to give Mike this pick again.
All right, I'm having deja vu. I remember the score reading 5-1 at some point last game. Now, will Ghost Gaming get us right back there as fast as they can? All of this is before level 5, by the way. There's not been a single ult in this game. No one's even gotten close to getting it just yet. And now imagine how fast those fights go if there's a Kraken, right? Sam just now ticks over there at 3-0-2. It's just downhill from here if Obey can't get their feet under them. And honestly, Sino already 2 levels down, falling this far behind. This is where warriors in the jungle start to suffer.
Right, they can. They rely so much on their base stats, leveraging those to still be tanky even while itemizing into power, but that's going to be so much harder for Sino to do once he falls behind. And you heard them on the desk talk about how maybe this could alleviate some of the early pressure, picking this Kepri for inbound, right? But the thing is, Ghosts have done a whole lot of work before inbound could possibly have rezzed anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing. It alleviates pressure when he hits level 5, right? They even went the right route. They picked this Achilles. They banned out the Thanatos. There's no executes online for Ghost Gaming because, let's admit it, who's going to pick someone like Ao Kwang right now? So you have all of this flexibility. You know, hey, as long as they proc it, that's a 6th life that we have. Somebody's going to be able to be in this fight a second time. But if he's level 3 by the time PBM hits level 5, that's just more notes for Ghost Gaming to be able to get aggressive, get in the fight, keep going, because what are they going to do now? They can't save themselves. They can't escape you. You're going to keep chasing them down. The closest they have is Wowie over there, and I mean, he's starting to kind of tower over his own teammates with how aggressive and leveled up he is.
Inbound's dead again. Pull from Hercules into the Whirlpool. Kraken not really a way for the Khepri to survive that one. Sam could be in a bit of trouble, has to use Volcanic Lightning defensively, so that's a good bit of pressure that Sino and Wolfie were able to find, but look where FineOK is, up beyond the tier 1 proxying already, and no one feels safe rotating over to try and stop him. At this point in the game, Ghosts have a stranglehold on the map already.
Yeah, alright guys, who wants to go try and fight the level 7 FineOK's Cucullin? I don't think anybody's going to be raising their hands to that one. It really is, I think, in this duo lane that right now Obey maybe need to focus. If you can shut down Panda Cat, maybe it doesn't slow down Lasber. Maybe it does, or I'm sorry, Sam for Soccer. Maybe it doesn't slow down Captain Twig. But it will at least give you some win condition back into this game. Wolf is going to be able to hit late game Merlin with items. Wowie, if he can get ahead over here, can maybe start shifting some of these team fights in favor for your team.
Another push-pull combination. His inbound still has not found his way to the ultimate, but Panda Cat does get stunned inside the Suns, uses the Bifrost to reposition, so it'll be up to Sam and Polar Bear Mike to complete the kill, and they're able to. That's now 4 deaths for inbound in the first 6.5 minutes of this game. He's been the recipient of all of this pressure from Ghost.
Panda Cat's use of the Bifrost these last 2 games is probably the perfect example everybody should live by. He's going to use it to be able to small displacements, right? The closer they are, the faster you teleport between the two, so you don't have to worry about it. Also, the shorter cooldown they're on. So in these moments where he just needs essentially a quick blink out of an engagement, that's what he has. He used a lot in the Fire Giant Pit last game. He's been using a lot this game so far just to displace himself. Hey, now I'm not in the Suns anymore. And as long as you always have one nearby, you can just drop one at your feet and get yourself out of there as fast as possible. And no one can chase him down. I mean, Wowie would then have to use his jump to engage, and if PBM's in the area, you're not jumping in on him.
No, there's no way you'd feel safe trying to make it happen as FineOK continues to push Ducky out on the right side. Sino was looking for where he might be able to go, but now he's in danger of a collapse. Good blink from him. Has to be used defensively, but still, that's kind of the whole point. Everything Obey does, it feels like, has to be defensive. Aside from that pre-minion spawning kill they got into Polar Bear Mike, this game has been all Ghosts. I don't think Ducky's gotten a blue buff all game long, Gore, and Sam wants to continue to make things worse for him. Mike does find the pull, but not the push, so Ducky does survive this bit of engage. Inbound was there with a Scarab's Blessing if it were necessary.
That's maybe one of the only places that you can actually see PBM not get the full combo, and it's just because that tower is so awkwardly in the way to try and get the full combo. But controlling Ducky, it's just become, well, almost second nature. You keep down one of their win conditions, and now he can't even leave his tower.
Ducky does have the Scarab's Blessing on him. Abduct from inbound does keep FineOK in the tower a bit longer, but the tower falls down. Inbound suddenly with no mana. Sino goes in with the Lord of the Afterlife. That catches FineOK, but Mike pulls in 3 members for a 3-man boulder, walks up and punches Wolfie in the face for another kill. That's left Sino in the back to try and fight Sam. Captain Twig on his way as well as Sam for Soccer gets his 5th kill in a row. And Twig looking to kill Ducky with the Kraken.
Ooh.
It just barely wasn't enough damage as Twig has to take 2 tower shots to do it.
I mean, that, I think, shows the mindset, though, that Ghosts are in more than anything, right? Twig, actually not even backing just yet. They have the timer on that blue buff, so I know what he's waiting for. And, well, I mean, yeah, it was a blue buff inbay, I believe, to start that, and they just happened to find a tier 1 tower and all of those kills. And, yeah, maybe it's not as clean as Ghosts have had in the past, but the kills are kind of leveling up the same way they did last game, right? For every 1 or 2 that Obey are able to get, you get 4 or 5 on the side of Ghost Gaming. Not quite enough to keep you constantly ahead of them, 2 or 3 times to the point where you're exponentially ahead. But enough that you've got a 1-level lead in the jungle and mid, you've got 2 there in your supports, and that's making the big difference for where PBM is able to find this aggression. So far, the best we've seen out of Inbound is being able to stall someone's life by throwing that res onto him.
It is at least somewhat of a bright side that really all this deficit is kind of on Inbound and between Inbound and Polar Bear Mike at this point in the game. There's a tremendous goal deficit that's starting to accrue as well, and this can make things worse. Ghost starting up the Gold Fury and daring Obey to come in. Inbound gets pushed in by the driving strike. There's the Suns from Wowie, and they do lock down Sam. Big answer back from Obey as they find the Fury as well. Sino looking for Twig. Can't quite lock him down, but this was desperately needed from the Chaos team to find some answer as Mike continues to look for more. He blinks in with the full driving strike. Got Sino a bit, but there wasn't any follow-up.
I would argue if you lose maybe anybody other than Sam there, yeah, Obey might get the Gold Fury, but you're picking up a couple of kills right there after. I think Twig was in a position to try and find it, but Sino was chasing him down, forces his beads, makes sure that this Kraken can't be big, the Whirlpool can't be big, and that this Poseidon couldn't find anything in the aftermath. But man, if that Pele is able to run rampant, you at least get something back. Even now, it feels weird to say this because it's the inverse of last game, but Ghost Gaming are going to be able to pick up some scraps. But because of the position they're in, this Pyromancer honestly has maybe as much weight as that Gold Fury. They're already so far ahead that losing, 500 gold total doesn't affect them.
No, it's certainly still trending up for them. Twig in some trouble. Sino trying to grab him underneath the Tier 1. Lord of the Afterlife, though, not going to be enough. So they have to use both those ultimates and Twig able to make it out of there, despite all that extra help from inbound. I like the idea, though. Sino trying to be active, trying to find some way to get some kills. And they know with him low health, maybe Mike can interrupt the speed. Won't get there in time, though, but I like where PBM's head was at.
I mean, the way they're playing this, specifically on the side of Obey, is proper, right? You're not so far behind that you can't impact the game just yet. 20 minutes, maybe even 16 minutes last game, they started to feel that. Sino couldn't really get aggressive on the Wukong because what's he gonna do? He's just gonna run in, maybe get forced to ult, and then run out. He's not going to be able to make a big impact. But Sino has a leap that can come in, a stun, slows. If you're looking to lock someone down, Poseidon's the easiest target for you. I mean, he has no leap to get away. He's forced to use his Kraken in those events to try and run away. You're going to be able to get his beads every time. So I like where Sino's head is at. Keep that pressure up and make Twig feel unsafe.
More action near the Gold Fury. Captain Twig is here, and it's worth mentioning he's taking a Witchblade with him into battle. Not something we see on these mid lane mages, but Twig really likes this third item, health, movement speed, tree, and he's gone with the Witchblade this time to try and help out as Wolfie and he exchange blows in mid. Sino is going to have to say hello to the ultimate there from PandaCat as they send him on a ride. When he comes back, there's Autos waiting, but Sino wants to join the fray that's happening up forward, and Mike took too much damage. Sino gets another kill, and suddenly Ghost starting to bite off more than they can chew. PandaCat dies as well, and Obey gets some critical answers back with a 3-for-1.
Last game, Obey spent every minute, every fight looking for that one window of opportunity, that one thing that could get them back to the game. That's that moment. That's what they were looking for the entire time, was when will Ghost Gaming just try too much? Just try to do slightly too much, because one step over here, with a draft like this, it starts to fall apart. Now they get a couple of kills, and they get that Tier 1 tower. Yeah, maybe it doesn't completely eradicate the lead that exists already, but considering how close they were, it really does make it difficult for anyone on Ghost to continue the level of aggression they had at the beginning of this game, that they had when they were leading 5-1, and that they had through all of Game 1. This is the way to slow it down.
It is. So this is good. It feels like we can finally breathe a little bit and kind of let our foot off of the early game snowball storyline. I think that with that Fury, with that 3-for-1 fight that we saw just now, Obey have kind of brought themselves into a spot where they're not even. Still a lead there for Ghost, but it's not so much a story of, man, this is out of control. They're dead already. I mean, the experience only 1,000, 2,200 gold is something that you can definitely come back from. So now we can start to think, Gore, about how Obey's composition is going to interact with Ghosts throughout this mid game. Ducky might not be a part of it, though, if he gets caught. Good call with the Fatal Strike to sort of switch in that last minute, but he still gets hit by the knockup and some Volcanic Lightning, and Sam will continue to dive under the Tier 1 and find that kill. Tier 2, rather.
That is such a huge play because Sam recognizes I can hit the tower to get the splash cone damage on this last auto there, right? It's one of those moments that maybe Ducky is still running away otherwise. You're waiting for Sam to get some cooldowns just to chase him down. So I think big to be able to pick that up. But just as big is Sino's impact. You were saying, how is Obey going to be able to kind of interact with what Ghost Gaming have picked up here? There's a winged blade now picked up for Captain Twig. If you're looking at someone who can slow you down, it is really only Sino that's looking for that lockdown, and that's how much presence he has against this Poseidon. You get caught out just once as Twig, and all of a sudden, it's worth buying a full item. It's going to take away from your power. Yeah, you're going to have some health, but overall, the curve that I think you're hoping to ride as a Poseidon isn't going to be there anymore. That Kraken might not hit as hard as you expect right now.
It's definitely going to hurt his damage, but he likes it for some of the utility that it provides. Inbound has to use the ultimate on himself to get away from the Kraken. Abduct doesn't get him anything, and now Sino's trying to fight 3 people. Boulder from Mike does hit 2, pulls Wowie back out, and gives room for Fino K to operate as he takes down Inbound. Wowie shows up to the fight, and he's too little too late. Mike gets another kill, swinging the big old club around, and takes down a second member. And they want these last remaining 3. A blink from Sino gets him away from the prying eyes of Ghost, but with that space created, with Obey pushed out, the tier 1 tower taken, they can come right back towards the Oni Fury.
You know, Finch, I can look at the other aspect of this item, which is just watch Captain Twig anytime he's running around with his 2 active. He's zooming. He has no one who's going to be able to keep up with him. Much like right now, he just runs between the maps. And this is going to make it hard for anyone to lock him down. You get Oni Furies like that, but I'm thinking of late game rotations as well. Kraken is going to be one of the oldest, safest secures that you have in terms of objectives, and if you know Twig can just quite literally run you down before you can finish an objective, his presence can be enough to maybe thwart something like a Pyromancer, maybe a late game Fire Giant, or just a team fight where he happens to rotate in slightly later than everybody else.
Yeah, and I gotta think that aura, the reducing attack speed, won't hurt when he's trying to deal with Sino as well in those interactions when the Osiris is on top of him. Pyromancer being looked at now by Ghost Gaming. Nearby is Ducky, so the Pyro has to be dropped. Fire Giant has been aggroed. They got to get out of range of that at this point as Pyro is re-grabbed. Ghost able to secure it, and even though Obey were local, they really couldn't stop it. And Mike continues to look for pulls, continues to frontline with Fino K there with him, and they can collapse onto Sino in the backline. He has been bullied to this point. Kraken really only lands on the inbound, and it's enough to complete the kill.
Jeez.
So Sino sees his moment, looks for Panda Cat in the back, but a big crit gives him the double kill. He only has a little bit of crit percent, but it was enough. Now Ducky in trouble as he falls as well. Sam gets the credit, and suddenly the fight's swinging handily in Ghost's favor. A full-on deicide as they still got 3 members standing.
It's unfortunate because you lose just enough on the side of Ghost that there's not really a chance for a Fire Giant here. You don't have the damage burn, plus the health bars were so low, you're not going to be able to pick up any of those kinds of objectives, the jungle objectives, as they come through. But hey, Tier 1, Tier 2 towers, absolutely on the chopping block, and that should at least be one in mid here, with a full wave and 2 members being able to knock it down. Probably the one over in right as well, since that's where PBM decided to put his focus.
Yeah, between these 2 pushes, these 2 towers should come down. The tower now targeting Sam with this teleport coming in, inbound, may have bought enough time after all. So only the tier 2 tower in the short lane, the solo lane, will actually drop and find. Should be able to make out of this. I don't think Ducky and Inbound have enough threat to kill him, and he can kind of just leave whenever he decides he's done. So Ghosts now have a chance to sort of breathe and reset. They're 10,000 gold in the lead here, Gormizer. Have 10 more kills than Obey have as well, and look at the leads that are materializing in the experience. Inbound still doesn't even have a second relic since he's only level 11.
That's rough. 18 minutes into the game, almost 19 minutes into the game, and he's not going to be able to have that impact. And depending on what he goes, maybe it's going to be some sort of aggression. But you could also look at some utility to try and keep your team safe right now, because you don't necessarily, I want to say, have as much going for you anymore, right? The itemization from Ghost Gaming, Wing Blades, Witch Blades, Shifters, Shields, all of it is really set up to just make them hurt less. They have less going for them, whether it's attack speed or it's their ability to slow or even just their ability to fight and kill you down. It's so difficult to find that one-man pick they keep looking for.
4-man knockup from Fino K as they continue their aggression. Ducky's way in the back of the fight, but the boulder coming out from Polar Bear Mike was almost prescient, ends up hitting everybody and pumps out the damage. Fino K gets rid of Wowie. Wolfie falls too, and without their damage dealers, the fight's starting now to look a bit more desperate. Sino in some trouble as Inbound has fallen. It's a double kill now for Fino K as they pin Ducky up against the wall. He's slowed, and Sam for Soccer gets the deicide, and Gore with everybody here, they're pushing down mid. They might be able to end it right now. 15 seconds before inbound is back up. And can they burn this mid Phoenix fast enough? The minions are here, so the backdoor protections are down, and I think that they can. They've even got the Kraken. Ghost Gaming in 20 minutes gonna seal this set up against Obey.
So it turns out, when you joke about Ghost Gaming's impossibly fast level of gameplay, sometimes it can come true and come back to actually prove you right. The fact that you have a full-on deicide at the end of that game and Kraken is still up either means Twig used that at the very beginning of the engagement, which we know he didn't, or he was able to hold on to it with a cool head the entire fight, never worrying about pressure on him, never worrying about his team. And I don't think you can level all of that to just Hercules, but at least the first 5 to 10 minutes were kind of just Hercules, and then the rest of the team is so far ahead that it just crumbles through the hands of Obey.
It's a stark reminder, I think, for Obey that there is still some work to do for this squad. We've been excited about their new look and how competitive they've been, but up at the tippy top where teams like Ghost are, it looks like there's still a gap, Gormizer. An impressive win for Ghost, 2-0. I'll get it back over to the Dolson on the desk.
Well, set 1 ends at 6 o'clock Eastern time, and we're wrapping up this week in the SPL just shy, or just after 7. Ghost run away with this one. And you too could run away with your games. Look good, play good. That's always the big mentality here. And the Galaxy Hero chest is available in-game right now. And some good skins in that one as well. The Galaxy Maverick Naja skin available in that chest. I think it's one of the coolest ones I've seen in here in a while. So Galaxy Hero chest, take a look at it in-game. Maybe you too could look good when you're running down the Titan in about 20 minutes. Mifflin, though, I don't know, man. I mean, this is maybe starts in picks and bans. I asked, what do you need to change? Hercules was the answer you gave after I allowed you, and, well, it came to fruition once again.
It seems like Obey may have been asking themselves the same question you asked me. What do we have to change? Hercules ban not allowed. It should have been on the table. It should have been in the books. That was the biggest support diff in any single set I've ever seen. PBM absolutely runs it down game 1. Game 2, he does the same. And Sanford Soccer obviously having a great performance as well, but it's not like I could attribute it to any one player for Ghost Gaming because they won cleanly across the board. PBM dies this game. He's actually the first blood before the minion wave spawn, and then he walks back into his lane and picks up 2 or 3 back-to-back kills on inbound.
And it seems like maybe there's just a different... Maybe the playstyle isn't all that different with Herc and Kepri. You're plucking, you're pushing, you're pulling, but Herc just does so much damage while he's doing it. So for Inbound to have even remotely stayed in the same ballpark of the setup that PBM was finding, I think was a tall task from the onset. I mean, maybe you really look for the Kepri to just mitigate some of that setup and wasn't really able to do so. But even outside of the support role, Mifflin, I think not talking about Sam for Soccer and really Ghost as a whole, we need to say that now. This is a clean team performance. If you want to look specifically at slash lines, this Pele was hitting its mark consistently throughout the game. Sam continuing to prove that no matter how heavily you identify him and ban him, you might even make an argument. All 5 of your bans used in the jungle, Sam will still find something that'll punish you.
It's hard to talk ish about any single one of the players on Ghost there. They all perform at such a high level, and they all won out in their lanes individually. They group up as 5 and win team fights there. Their objective fights were clean. Obey, for the first time, are starting to look like they're backsliding back into the old habits that we saw before, and they get blown out so early on in the set. Not the quickest game in the SPL. That one still goes to Sanguine at 18 minutes, but pretty close.
Pretty close. Well, they will still have one more game to bounce back, hopefully before the end of Phase 1. Here's your Week 9 schedule. Kick things off on Friday. Ghost Gaming won that one. Rounded things out here on Sunday with a Ghost Gaming win as well. Luckily, Radiance in 2-1 fashion was able to turn things around from their loss on Friday, and then some fun 2-0s in the sandwich there in the middle. This is Benji after Game 3. Another clean and dominant performance in the books for the boys. Now Mifflin, maybe from the mid-game onward, you call it clean, but that Cullen maybe looked anything but there to start off. Maybe no fault to Benji himself, but look at how sandwiched we are here up top, Mifflin. 9-4 for the top 3 teams here in this league.
Yeah, they're looking highly competitive up top. And you know what? Let's give some credit to Benji. Sure, he struggled a little bit in the early game, but after the 57-minute mark in that 60-minute game, my man was popping off. No more deaths after 57 minutes, only kills and only dubs from there going on. And maybe that's what Benji's only really thinking about.
Yeah, the Cullen absolutely turned it around. This is where we stand after Week 9. A couple teams still looking to reach the 14-game mark to really round us out. So we'll have 4 games next week, 4 sets next week to really round this one out. Mifflin, you kind of look forward to the future here. We've got some big ones to start off. United PK, that's a race that's still so important there, specifically if you start to look towards some of the later match standings. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to pay attention to these games moving into next week, see how these final couple of playoff spots tend to shake out. But it's Ghost. In 40 minutes of total game time after a 3-hour set number 1, Ghost is going to round out Week 9 with 2 20-minute wins here. And who better to tell us how it happened than Slaney, head coach for Ghost?
Thanks, Dawson. I absolutely do have Slaney here with me. First, thanks for making this one short after that long set 1. I feel like, is your job made easier when Mike gets to play Hercules 2 games in a row?
Yeah, the thing's pretty easy when he's on the hook. I'm pretty sure there was in the second game, there were many times where he just said, yeah, give me hook, which he'll probably end up posting that on Twitter, but it makes things pretty easy.
Well, was the game plan, I mean, obviously you hope that every game gets to end this dominantly for your team, but was the game plan to have this much kind of early pressure? Did you want to try and maybe take it to Obey in the early game here specifically?
I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that our game style is usually just heavy, early pressure oriented. So I would say it wasn't really any different with Obey than how we treat other teams. We kind of just try to get off to a good start early game. So I would say it's kind of just how we do against every team. Or try to, anyway.
With this win, you're still neck and neck with Sanguine up there at the top of the standings here right now. Do you all have that read that you're the best team in the league here right now, as the standings say, if you had to objectively judge you guys' own strength?
Yeah, we're the best team by far. I think we have the best players in every 5 roles, so. And me, of course.
That's right. Who else has Slady? You got the Slady advantage. We never talk about the coach differential. It's always jungle differential. Any last closing thoughts here? What can we expect from you all next week? Anything spicy maybe in the works?
Just an easy 2-0 versus SSG. We'll get our revenge.
All right, Slaney, thanks for taking the time to talk with me, man. It really is always a pleasure. We still got to close things out, though, so I'll get it back over to Dulcie.
Gotta love talking to Slaney. It's a man who has complete confidence, and for good reason. It's not a team that doesn't often back up that confidence, and a team that plays, I think, with a similar mindset to their head coach there in Slaney. That's going to be a blast to watch next week, though, Mifflin. Talk about SSG up against Ghost, 2 teams up at the top of the standings. Cannot wait.
2 teams that have also been hitting a resurgence. They've been both playing towards the top of their top peak play, and seeing these 2 behemoths go at each other should be absolutely amazing. Always a treat to hear from one of the European coaches. These guys have the best banter. I've been on record saying that I'm kind of sick of people bringing this humbleness to these interviews. Slaney coming out straight saying, yeah, we're the best, and we're going to 2-0 what a lot of people would consider the best. I love that energy.
Well, 4 games. All 8 teams playing. Every team, obviously, through that is going to be playing their final game of the phase next week. There is still one playoff spot to decide, though, Mifflin. Obviously, for E-United and Renegades. PK up against E-United. That's a big one. If E-United lose and Renegades beat Obey, that means Renegades will leapfrog themselves up the standings one more time. 5-8, 4-9. So as close as this league has been, Miff, it's going to come down to 2 final sets to determine the last spot in Phase 1 playoffs.
It's never a good feeling when the fate of your land status is in the hands of another team. I've been in that situation, and no one's going to be rooting harder for PK than the Renegades. It seems like it's a tall task, PK beating United, and then Renegades have to win their own set, but it's completely likely, especially considering that United have been kind of backsliding as the year goes on.
I cannot wait to see how all of this shakes out. If United beat PK, then all these scenarios don't matter. Week 9, absolute blast to watch, to cast, to work on here for us in the SPL. But on behalf of myself, Mifflin, everyone back in production, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday for the end of Phase 1.